If the power stays out for 30 days, these are the decisions parents are forced to make. We have been conditioned by Hollywood to believe that when the world falls apart, it happens with an explosion. There are sirens, people running, and chaos in the streets. But as someone who has studied disaster psychology for decades, I can tell you a true collapse doesn't begin with a bang. It begins with silence. It starts the moment the hum of your refrigerator stops. If the power stays out for 3 hours, it's an inconvenience. But if the U.S. power grid suffers a catastrophic failure for 30 days, we are no longer talking about a blackout. We are talking about a different era. For those of you living in a quiet cul-de-sac in a single-story home you've worked your whole life for, the strategy is not to put on a backpack and run into the woods. You are not 25 years old anymore, and bugging out is a fantasy that gets good people killed. Your survival depends on staying put. But here is the reality most people ignore. The modern American suburb is a machine that requires electricity to breathe. Did you know that the average grocery store in your town operates on a just-in-time delivery system? They don't have weeks of food in the back. They have about 72 hours of inventory. And more critically for us, the municipal sewage lift stations that push waste away from your home rely on electric pumps. When those stop, the threat isn't just outside your door, it's coming up through your pipes. In the next 30 minutes, we are not going to talk about fighting off looters or hunting deer. We are going to talk about the silent, agonizing decisions you will be forced to make inside your own living room. Decisions about when to stop flushing the toilet to save your house from disease. Decisions about rationing your spouse's heart medication when the pharmacy closes indefinitely. These are the 7 quiet decisions that determine who makes it to day 31. If you believe that knowledge is the only survival tool that cannot be looted, I invite you to subscribe and join our community of sensible survivors today. Now take a deep breath and let's face the first decision together. The neighbor trap. By day 7, the novelty of the blackout has entirely evaporated, replaced by a hollow, gnawing silence in the suburbs. According to FEMA data, 90% of American households keep less than 3 days' worth of food in their pantries, which means by this point the average person on your street has likely missed 12 consecutive meals. Their bodies are trembling from hypoglycemia, and their minds are slipping into a desperate primal state of survival. This is the specific moment that breaks the hearts of unprepared parents. You are sitting in your darkened living room when you hear a soft, hesitant knock. Standing on your porch is the 10-year-old boy from across the street, your child's best friend. He looks pale. His lips are dry, and he whispers that his mother is crying because they haven't eaten since Tuesday. Your immediate instinct is to rush to the kitchen and hand him a sandwich, but you must freeze that impulse because in a collapse, charity is not a moral choice. It is a mathematical form of suicide. Consider the brutal lifeboat math that governs this scenario. If you have painstakingly stored 30 days of food for your family of 4, and you decide to support your neighbor's family of 4, you haven't just shared a meal. You have instantly cut your own family's survival timeline from 30 days down to 15 days. You have literally given away 2 weeks of your children's lives in a single second of guilt. Furthermore, the act of preparing that food is a tactical error that can get you killed. In a neighborhood where no one has cooked a hot meal for a week, the human nose becomes hypersensitive. The scent of heating soup or baking bread can travel up to 1/4 mile, acting like a flare gun that announces to every starving father within 4 blocks that you have a surplus. If you open that door, you confirm that you have resources, and worse, that you are soft enough to give them away. Tomorrow, that boy's father won't come to knock. He will come to breach, and he certainly won't come alone. The decision is agonizing, but you must look into the eyes of a starving child and close the door, accepting the role of the villain today so your family doesn't become the victim tomorrow. The sewage time bomb. While the decision to close the door on a neighbor attacks your conscience, this second decision assaults your physical senses, yet it is just as critical for keeping your family alive. It concerns the most dangerous seat in the house, the toilet. For parents and grandparents raised on modern conveniences, the bathroom is a sanctuary of hygiene. You use it, you flush it, you wash your hands. But in a 30-day grid-down scenario, the modern plumbing system changes from a convenience into a biological weapon aimed directly at your household. Most people are unaware that the municipal sewage system relies on electric lift stations to fight gravity and push waste to treatment plants. Without electricity, these pumps fail within 4 to 6 hours, meaning the pipes under your street stop moving and start filling up. If you continue to flush out of habit, you are committing two fatal errors. First, you are wasting 1.6 to 3 gallons of potable water from the tank, clean water that could keep a grandchild alive for an entire day next week. Second, and more terrifying, you are pressurizing a clogged system. Physics dictates that when the main lines under the street reach capacity, the raw sewage has nowhere to go but backward, erupting up through the lowest drains in your home, typically your bathtub and shower. To prevent your home from becoming a toxic swamp of methane and cholera, parents and grandparents must unite to enforce a strict new rule: stop flushing immediately. You have to implement the bucket and bag system, lining the toilet bowl with a heavy-duty trash bag and using kitty litter or dirt to cover the waste. It is humiliating, it smells, and for the older generation it feels like a degradation of human dignity. However, historically dysentery has killed more civilians in sieges than bullets ever did. You must choose between a foul-smelling living room and a house infected with a lethal bacteria that the weak immune systems of both the very young and the very old cannot fight. The body heat hack. The third decision forces you to abandon the very architecture of your American dream. Whether you are facing a freezing winter or a blistering heat wave, the moment the HVAC system dies, your spacious 2,000 square foot suburban home stops being a shelter and starts becoming a coffin. For healthy adults, a drop in temperature is merely uncomfortable. But for grandparents with slower metabolisms or infants who cannot shiver effectively to generate heat, hypothermia is a silent assassin that can strike even at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The fatal mistake most families make is trying to live normally in a dying house. They wander from the kitchen to the bedroom, dissipating their precious body heat into large, cold voids. They try to heat the entire living room with dangerous candles or limited firewood, fighting a losing battle against physics. To survive day, 30 parents and grandparents must make the claustrophobic decision to abandon 90% of their home immediately. You must retreat into a single room, preferably one facing south for winter sun, or the basement for summer cool, and seal it off with plastic sheeting or blankets. But here is the survival hack that feels ridiculous until it saves your life. You need to pitch a camping tent inside that room. This is based on a simple biological fact that most people ignore. A resting human body radiates approximately 100 watts of heat, roughly the same as an old incandescent light bulb. If you sleep in a large master bedroom, that heat is lost to the high ceiling. But if you pack 2 grandparents, 2 parents, and 2 children into a small 4-person tent, you create a biological furnace generating 600 watts of continuous heat in a confined space. This microclimate can keep the interior of the tent 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the rest of the freezing house without burning a single log of wood. You must sacrifice your privacy and your personal space to create a human radiator, accepting that for the next month your entire world exists inside a canvas bubble. The rescue. Lie. The fourth decision takes place not in the pantry or the bathroom, but in the dark corners of the mind, forcing you to choose between preserving your children's innocence or hardening their psychology for survival. By day 3, the novelty of the blackout has faded. The batteries in the tablets are dead, and the silence in the house has become heavy. Your grandchildren or children will eventually look at you with wide, fearful eyes and ask the question you have been dreading regarding when the lights are coming back on. The instinct of every loving parent and grandparent is to offer a comforting lie, telling them not to worry because the trucks are coming and everything will be normal by tomorrow. This feels like kindness because it allows them to sleep peacefully for one more night, but in a grid-down scenario, operational security is the only wall left standing between you and the chaos outside, and the biggest threat to that security is often an uninformed child. Consider the terrifying reality that a child who believes this is just a camping trip will happily open the front door when a stranger knocks, or worse, shout to their friend across the street that they still have peanut butter. That innocent sentence, spoken loud enough for a desperate passerby to hear, is a tactical breach that can get your entire family killed. Therefore, you must make the agonizing decision to steal their childhood in exchange for their safety. You must sit them down, look them in the eye, and tell them the ugly truth that the police are not coming and you are on your own. By doing this, you are forcing them to grow up 10 years in a single night, replacing their carefree smiles with the hypervigilance of a soldier. It is a tragedy to watch the light go out of their eyes, but a frightened, alert child survives, while a happy, oblivious child does not. The 1400 calorie mistake. As you enter the second week of the blackout, the silence in the neighborhood becomes deafening, and you are forced to confront a decision that feels like a betrayal of your own soul regarding the loyal, four-legged guardian sleeping at your feet. In normal times, the family dog is a source of unconditional love, but when the grocery store shelves have been empty for 14 days, that beloved animal undergoes a terrifying transformation in the cold calculus of survival, shifting from a pet into a dangerous caloric competitor. The crisis often begins quietly when the last bag of dry kibble runs out, and you catch your grandchild sneaking half of their precious cracker ration under the table to the hungry animal. While this is a gesture of pure love, it is a tactical disaster that forces you to face the brutal caloric math that polite society ignores. You must process the staggering biological fact that a standard 70-pound dog requires approximately 1,400 calories per day just to maintain its body weight, which is exactly the same amount of energy required to keep your 10-year-old grandchild alive. This realization pushes you into an impossible corner where continuing to feed the dog literally means taking food out of the mouths of your human family members. However, stopping is equally dangerous because a starving dog does not quietly fade away. Within days, it reverts to primal instincts, becoming food aggressive and potentially dangerous to the very children it used to protect. Ultimately, you must decide whether to exile a family member into the wild or watch your grandchildren waste away because you could not bear to break the bond of loyalty. The volume illusion. The most dangerous threat to your food supply in the first 72 hours isn't looting. It is the innocent boredom of a child. By the third afternoon, when the screens are dark and the house falls silent, your grandchildren will inevitably wander into the kitchen asking for snacks, not because they are physically starving, but because eating is the only source of comfort they have left. This is the precise moment where you must shatter the dangerous volume illusion that tricks almost every suburban family. Most people stand before a pantry stacked high with boxes and bags and feel a false sense of security, assuming they have months of food, but they fail to perform the terrifying math of survival. A standard family of 4 requires a staggering 240,000 calories to survive a 30-day siege without severe physical deterioration. Here is the shocking reality that will stop you cold. That large, comforting box of cereal on your shelf that looks like a week's worth of breakfast. It contains only about 1,200 calories. To simply keep your family's hearts beating and bodies warm, you would need to consume 7 entire boxes of cereal every single day. If you allow your family to continue their normal habits of 3 meals plus snacks, your seemingly full shelves will be completely barren by day 8. Therefore, you are forced to make the heart-wrenching decision to impose strict rationing while bellies are still full, literally locking the pantry door and ignoring the pleas of children who do not understand why you are withholding food. You must teach them the hard difference between phantom hunger, which is just boredom, and true starvation, explaining that you are saving those precious calories for day 20 when the real suffering begins. It requires a will of iron to deny a cookie today so that your family can have a bowl of rice 2 weeks from now. The suicide hike. By day 28, your home has transformed from a sanctuary into a dark, freezing prison that smells of unwashed bodies and sewage, forcing you to confront the final and most dangerous decision of all regarding whether to stay or run. You will look out the window and see younger neighbors loading backpacks and heading towards the highway, and the primal urge to flee will scream at you to join them, telling you that anywhere is better than this dying house. However, for a grandparent with a bad hip or a parent with a toddler, the fantasy of bugging out is the single deadliest lie in the survivalist handbook. You must pause and calculate the terrifying physics of movement that the movies never show. A healthy, well-fed soldier can march 12 miles a day with a pack, but your family is currently starving, sleep-deprived, and physically weak. The shocking reality is that the road is not a path to freedom. It is a calorie incinerator. Resting in your cold house requires only about 1,600 calories a day to keep your organs functioning, but walking with a heavy pack in a high-stress environment burns over 4,500 calories a day. You simply do not have the fuel for that engine. If you leave the shelter of your roof, you are trading passive survival, where walls block the wind and rain for free, for active survival, where every step costs energy you no longer possess. The harsh truth is that if you did not leave on day 1 in a vehicle, you missed your window. Walking out the door now in your weakened state is not an escape plan. It is merely choosing to die tired on the side of the road rather than waiting for rescue in the safety of your own home. We have just walked through 30 hypothetical days of darkness, not to scare you but to prepare you. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this simulation, it is this: survival is not about having the biggest muscles or the most guns. It is about having the hardest will. For many of you watching, you might feel that your age is a disadvantage. You might look at your stiff joints or your medicine cabinet and think you are weak. But let me tell you a secret that the Rambo survivalists will never understand. In a collapse, patience saves more lives than adrenaline. Younger people will run. They will fight, and they will burn out their energy in the first week. You know how to endure. You have lived through hardships before. You have the patience to sit still, the wisdom to ration, and the discipline to keep the door closed when your heart wants to open it. The 7 decisions we discussed today are terrifying, yes, but the true horror is not making them. The true horror is waiting until the lights go out to think about them for the first time. Panic is simply the result of not having a plan. By watching this video, you have already begun the mental work that 99% of the population ignores. You have stared into the abyss and you didn't blink. Now I have one critical assignment for you. I want you to walk into your kitchen immediately after this video ends. Look at your pantry, not with hunger but with the caloric math we just discussed. Then come back and tell me in the comments below, what is the one specific item you realized you are missing right now? Is it water, is it medicine, or is it a way to heat a single room? Your comment might just remind someone else to get the very thing that saves their life. If you found value in this reality check, please hit that like button. It helps this message reach other families before the grid goes down. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell, because in our next video we are going to solve that water problem once and for all. And remember, the lights are still on. Use your time wisely. Stay safe.